Okay, I give up. I'll cave in. I'll make a tier list video. You guys really like these for some reason, so I might as well make one since I've played quite a bit of set 3 already.
Kar di Kaizoku.
Set 3 is here, or well, I've actually been playing OP03 on the sim for about 6 weeks now, so I've got quite a bit of hands-on experience with the set already. I'll be using my experience with set 3 so far along with tournament results from the Japanese card regions to base this tier list off of. Right off the bat, I'm putting Whitebeard in a tier of his own in SS. Whitebeard is strong into every deck. The only deck that goes even with Whitebeard is literally another Whitebeard. This will change a bit in OP04 with yellow, blue, and green getting amazing defensive additions. I do notice that the English card meta and its players have a hard-on for like slower anti-aggro playstyles, but I think Whitebeard will still be on top despite this. That brings us to the S tier. We have Zoro. Pretty much every mono red deck got a boost from the Whitebeard Pirates package. Zoro too, even though he's not a Whitebeard Pirates leader himself. Izo and Buggy are amazing new weenie searchers for the deck, and Marco allows you to utilize events more flexibly, allowing you to run 4 guard point and 4 radical beam. This gives Zoro options to play defensively and makes it a multi-dimensional deck to pilot. Katakuri. Yellow cards are very strong right off the bat in their introductory set. Katakuri has a strong leader ability on top of this that synergizes with one of Yellow's core mechanics of card triggers. This is enough to land him in S. His leader ability lets you swing for 7k with just 1 Dawn and gives you a degree of control over your life triggers. This gives him a fighting chance against Whitebeard. Next up in the S tier is Ace. The red cards in set 3 are dedicated for an Ace deck. Flame Emperor is one of the most value-packed and strongest cards in the entire game, and only Ace can play it. The Whitebeard Pirates package is just a strong and developed core at the moment, which push red decks that utilize it up more than other colors. I'm going to be a lot more strict with my tier, so I'll close off the S tier with that. Moving on to the A tier, these decks are also very good, but I think there's just a definitive difference in power level between these leaders and the S tier ones. So to start off the A tier, we have Rob Lucci. Black gets its second expansion of support. I still believe the best way to play Lucci is with the Navy Admiral core, with CP9 being a supplemental package. While Lucci is plenty strong, I feel like Lucci has a hard time breaking through Whitebeard's defenses while staying alive. Lucci can't keep up with Zoro's pace, and Lucci's removal can't handle Katakuri's late game. Fukuro and Borsellino do help him pretty well against Ace, but overall, that's why I place Lucci under these other leaders. Next up is Trafalgar Law. I don't think Law will ever be lower than A in any meta. His leader ability is just incredibly strong. He doesn't run any new cards from OP03 but can still duke it out with the best of them. When you get perfect draws, Law is a top tier deck, but when you whiff, he falls apart pretty easily. And then we have Eustace Kid. Film Kid was popularized near the end of set 3 in Japan. It's such a simple deck as well. 7-cost blocker Luffy is the star of the show. Being a big blocker that can cheat out another character turns out to be a strong effect, especially with Bartolomeo allowing you to untap any film character. That, along with the strong package of event counters, makes it very comfy to keep your Luffy safe. You'll truly see the terror of Luffy in set 4 when he can cheat out an Uta blocker in the Doflamingo deck, but that'll be a video for another time. A lot of the strength in this deck revolves around getting value out of Luffy, but with 8-cost Katakuri and Flame Emperor in the meta, it can be hard to keep him around. Next we'll move on to the B tier. The B tier is any deck that can take games off of top tier decks, but they're either hard countered by a certain leader or have some consistency issues. In this tier we have Crocodile. With access to 3000 worlds for removal and strong cycling cards like Kaya and Sogeking, Crocodile goes up in power quite a bit in OP03. He has a strong core, but it's still lacking just a little bit more support. It won't be until OP04, with the addition of Red Rock and Kaido, that'll bring Croc up to snuff with the higher echelons of the meta. Next up is Kinemon. Kinemon gets nothing new in set 3, but Okiku and Odin continue to be very strong cards in the format. The only issue is that there's a lot more ways to deal with them now. Marco can revive, making Okiku's effect not as great into red. Flame Emperor and Katakuri can straight up just remove Odin. Next up we have Magellan. With how random Purple's identity has become by now, it's kinda surprising that this deck kind of works. Between cheating out Jailer Beast with Sadi, playing 5-cost Magellan to keep your opponent perpetually in the mid game, and attacking with your leader for 6k every turn, you generate a lot of unnoticeable advantages that add up in the end. But by the time those advantages can overwhelm your opponent, you'll have to deal with explosive cards like 9-cost Whitebeard or 10-cost Big Mom that are hard to handle. Next up is Z. This deck still relies too much on 10 cost Kuzan. It's helped a little due to having a Navy Searcher and Khalifa for card cycling now, but the difference between a 10 cost Kuzan Z game and a no 10 cost Kuzan Z game is just too great to place them any higher. Next up is Smoker. You can pretty much run the Lucci deck, but with Smoker as the leader, but you do miss out on the explosive power of Lucci's leader ability, so I have to put him one tier lower than him. Next up is Doflamingo. Doflamingo gets nothing new in OP03, but cheating out 4 costs is still strong against red, which makes up a majority of the top tier. Doflamingo folds like a wet noodle to yellow, and Katakuri is already an S tier deck. With yellow getting even more of a boost in OP04, this may be the last set we see blue Doflamingo at all. Next up is Big Mom. Her leader ability isn't great. Despite this, Big Mom is still in B tier just because yellow cards are good. Next up is Kuro. Surprisingly, a very strong leader. He may not be able to contend with the top tier decks, but he'll definitely manhandle a lot of the other decks in the B tier. I could definitely see Kuro being A tier with a little bit more East Blue support. Next up is Black Yellow Big Mom. She's our first taste at a grindy playstyle leader. She's propped up by the fact that yellow has amazing grindy cards with both Big Moms and Katakuri, but the black half doesn't really do much for her. We'll get to see the true power and annoyance of a grind deck in OP04 with Queen, where you can pair yellow with an actually useful color like blue. In the C tier are decks you'll have a hard time winning with. I won't go over them in detail, but here they are. And then you might be wondering, where's starter deck Luffy? I feel like Luffy is always a wild card in the English region. There'll eventually be some Luffy list that comes out of nowhere and wins tournaments. I don't know if the English crowd just likes Luffy more than the Japanese crowd or something, but because of this, I'm not exactly sure where to put Luffy. He could be S tier, he could be B tier, no one really knows. So I'll have to put him in his own special Schrodinger's tier. That about wraps up my thoughts on the OP03 meta. I based it off of my past 6 weeks of playing and tried not to make this list just a biased list of leaders I personally like. With that being said, like I mentioned earlier, the English meta loves anti-aggro and slower games for some reason. So we may see some surprises and differences from the Japanese meta. But I expect the differences to only be between the A and B tiers. I am confident Whitebeard will remain the only deck in SS. Is this list similar to yours? Is it completely different? Feel free to tell me off on how your favorite shitty niche dual color leader actually deserves to be an S tier in the comments down below. Okay, bye.
Car D Kaizoku.